Welcome everybody to this quick lecture on packaging and box art. Packaging and box art is something that we oftentimes look over because we're just so used to seeing it, but it's a huge world of graphics and how that plays into marketing and gets people to buy, one product over another. So let's get started. So this is just a stock photo of a grocery store. But if you look in the aisles, all of the packages have designs on them. They're intentionally designed. So, if they weren't designed, they would be just plain, whatever that means. They would just be a plain package, and we might not even know what's in them. Um, and it certainly would make going to the grocery store a completely different experience if there wasn't graphics on our packaging. So, the grocery store is a great example of packaging being used to its fullest. Almost every product in a package has some sort of graphics on the label. I mean, if you want to think about it this way, going to a grocery store is kind of like going to a packaging and box art gallery where you're able to be surrounded by salon style installations of packages that are super colorful, that have imagery on them, supporting what is inside the box. And it's all done so that you know what's inside, but also to get you to buy one product over another. Okay, this is another example of a grocery store aisle. We see, we mostly see what the product is. For this, it's a cereal. It's a breakfast cereal, oats. So we're very clear on that. But we've got the kind of the more minimalistic graphics, and then further down in the picture, we've got more variety with the graphics. Okay, here's another example of chips and dipping foods for the chips, and all of these also have graphics on them. And a design team worked very, very hard to develop these designs so that they represent the product and also get the consumer to want to purchase them. Okay, this is just an image of juice. Even on juice, we've got sophisticated box art and packaging design, very well thought out. The I like this picture especially because if you look closely at some of the juice boxes, you notice that there's photography involved too. So a photographer was also involved in this, staging this beautiful fruit layout, lighting it perfectly so that it could be placed on this box art and really represent the product in the best way possible. So a lot of time is being utilized for these packaging and box art items that we see every single day, and we see them every single day, so we don't really recognize just how much time is put in them. It's like we've almost seen them so many times. It's just kind of muddled now, and we really don't notice as much the graphic design or the intention behind all of this imagery. It's quite a lot. And going back to this slide, not only do we have the photographer making the photograph of the mango, of the oranges, of the pineapple, we also have a design team specifically working on the logo so that it can all work together. Almost every product in a package has some sort of graphics printed on a label or printed on box art. Each label was designed by a designer or design team utilizing design concepts. And one of the most important design concepts when we're talking about packaging is visual hierarchy. Visual hierarchy is a major design concept in packaging and box art. It's a major design concept in a lot of media and marketing, but we're going to talk about it specifically with packaging and box art for this lecture. So visual hierarchy, according to the Gestalt psychology, I encourage you to look up what Gestalt psychology is. It will help you in your designs. So visual hierarchy is a pattern in the visual field wherein some elements tend to stand out or attract attention more strongly than other elements, suggesting a hierarchy of importance. Okay? While it may occur naturally in any visual field, the term is most commonly used in design, especially graphic design and cartography, where elements are intentionally designed to make some look more important than others. This order is created by the visual contrast between forms in a field of perception. Objects with the highest contrast to their surroundings are recognized first by the human mind. Let's say that again. Objects with the highest contrast to their surroundings are recognized first by the human mind. Okay? So I love this example. When we look at this image, I know everybody everybody is individual in the way that we view things, but generally speaking, when we view this image, the first thing we see is the dog, and then we may see the bird or the parrot or the visual hierarchy directly behind the dog, and then our eyes shift downwards to the smaller animals. We go down and, oh wow, there's a cat and there's a ferret and there's a little dog and some kittens, and then there's a turtle and a little orange bird, and finally a snail. So this has been created, this image has been created intentionally so that your eye moves through the image the way that the designer wants you to. Okay? So this is an example, a very bold example of your eyes are going to land on the largest text. Okay? Then it's going to go to the next step down, and then it's going to go to the next step down. Same thing with this example. The first thing we see is hierarchy. Then we go text step down, not as big here, then this even smaller, and this is the smallest of all. And we don't see the smallest text until we see all of the larger text before it. And this is a wonderful thing to take in consideration when you're creating box art. We have this example of Cheerios, and this is a great example because not only do we have a photographer who has found a heart-shaped bowl, put Cheerios in it, some strawberries, lit it perfectly so that it has excellent contrast and it's really got great depth. So that image then gets centered onto the yellow box with the red and the yellow that we'll talk about color theory a little bit more in a few weeks, but the color combinations of yellow and red, it's a phenomenon, but it naturally makes you hungry. So that was intentional. The yellow background was intentional with the red bowl because of this phenomenon that having those two colors together can create the desire to eat. Right above it is Cheerios. So the first thing that we see is either the heart-shaped bowl or the highly contrasted title Cheerios. So it's the two elements, they're not competing with each other. They're really working in harmony or unity together. One is emphasizing the other, and one is supporting what the product is. So it's we first enter the box art and we see Cheerios and or the heart because it is such a large element. Then our eyes go up to family size. Then our eyes will go down to lower cholesterol. Then we go and we see it's a toasted whole grain oat cereal. And what I especially love about the toasted whole grain oat cereal is that the graphic designer lowered the opacity of that text but kept the font size similar to the lower cholesterol, so that it's not competing or becoming too busy or distracting. So that's something to also consider as you move forward making packaging and box art, is to really utilize the idea of opacity too, so that so that you can get all that information that the company may require you to put on there in a way that isn't distracting away from the overall composition. Okay. So after we see whole grain toasted oat cereal, we see that there's other text under that. We get to read that. Then we go up to the nutrition information. Then there's a supportive element, the little wheat right there. So it's just all formatted. It's all composed to really keep you in that imagery. It's very simplistic and extremely effective. Using visual hierarchy, the graphic designer has the power to guide the viewer's eye through the design. The title or product name is usually the largest part of the design, and everything else is supporting that title or product name. This is a vegan paleo chocolate bar. So it has, its ingredients are very, very simple. And that's the whole point of this chocolate bar. So it's called Get Back to Human. It has supportive imagery at the very, very top, who. And then we see Get Back to Human, and then we see simple, dark chocolate, and then we see organic, 70% cacao, vegan, paleo, and then we see what it doesn't have. And then we see the USD organic, then we have the information that has to be on there. But what I also really love about this packaging is not only the visual hierarchy and the supportive elements emphasizing the overall product, but it's the packaging itself. Get Back to Human Simple Dark Chocolate designers decided to create a simple packaging design. This looks like a recycled, minimally printed on, like thickish paper. It's not. There's no gloss coating. It's as dialed back and as simple as it can get, and that's just reaffirming the product. It's reaffirming the brand and its mission to provide simple, not complicated food for people. So this is also like an excellent example, because it's taking box art to another level. Not only is it the visual, the graphic art, but it's also what it is packaged into. So we also have this example of Rice Krispies. It's, we first look at it and we see Rice Krispies. It is the largest text. Then we see Kellogg's. Then we see Snap, Crackle, and Pop, these cartoons to reinforce the product, which is a toasted rice cereal. And Snap, Crackle, and Pop are engaging with this toasted rice cereal as the graphics. So when we open up a box of Rice Krispies, Snap, Crackle, and Pop aren't going to magically appear and have a bowl of Rice Krispies with us. But what it is doing, what these cartoons are doing, is they're engaging our imagination. So it makes us more excited to eat this toasted rice cereal, which, for being marketed more towards kids kind of need that extra emphasis for something that could be considered healthy, because when you pull, if anybody's ever poured a bowl of Rice Krispies, it does snap, crackle, and pop, but that's really kind of all you get. It's it's a very consistent toasted rice cereal. There are no marshmallows in it. There's no sugary treats in it. So the company had to create these cartoon characters a design team created these illustrations of Snap, Crackle, and Pop to engage the audience and get the consumer to buy Rice Krispies over some other cereal. So there's this huge industry of creating these elements, these supportive elements for these products. Under the product name or titles, there is usually an image that helps keep the attention of the viewer or consumer, making the product a more desirable option to purchase. Lots of money goes into these designs, so consumers want to buy one product over another. We have an example of Sour Patch Kids. Again, just like Snap, Crackle, and Pop, if we've ever opened a pack of Sour Patch Kids, the Sour Patch Kids, they're not really waving at you. They're not really dancing around. Their faces aren't really legible, but that doesn't matter because our mind, our imagination has been engaged. And so now we're able to associate these cute little characters, these more detailed characters, to the more consistent gelatin-based molds that Sour Patch Kids really are. Also, when we look at this design, it's fairly symmetrically balanced. When we look at it, it is the Sour Patch Kids is the first thing we see. I love the background shadow of the Sour Patch Kids. It's really emphasizing that title, and it's helping distinguish it from the background, because with the green background with the yellow splatter and then all the colorful dancing Sour Patch Kids, it could get kind of busy, and the title could kind of mesh in with the rest of the composition. But the designers decided to create a background of shadows of Sour Patch Kids, which is so creative, and then place the text in front of that to emphasize that title, but also incorporate it to the rest of the composition on the box art. It's just amazing. Next, we see Honey Nut Cheerios. So the first thing again, I see Honey Nut Cheerios, the name. Then I actually see the little bee, the bee character, and then I go right into the heart-shaped cereal. So then it goes into lowers cholesterol. It's made with real honey. Then I go up to gluten-free. I see it's made by General Mills. So again, this is another excellent example of visual hierarchy and supportive elements to emphasize this product, to not only help distinguish it from other products, but help you want this product over another simply because there is an adorable little bee character on the cover. I know I've bought Honey Nut Cheerios because there's just something about that adorable bee that makes me want to purchase Honey Nut Cheerios over some other cereal sometimes. So first we see Cheerios, then the picture, then how it can help lower cholesterol, made with real honey and is gluten-free. All of this has been consciously placed on the packaging and box art to not only inform you, but also persuade you into buying Honey Nut Cheerios as opposed to another similar cereal. Then there's this idea of design evolution. So what is also pretty cool is that box art changes as time changes. Different trends in current society will be used to keep the designs current. However, we always love when companies bring back the retro designs because of the nostalgia it evokes. This is an example of a 1985 Cheerios box. It's fairly consistent with Cheerios now. The real difference is the glass bowl as opposed to the heart-shaped bowl. There's still strawberries to enforce that red and yellow. We've got Snoopy on here because Snoopy was big, really big back then. So just like the bee, Snoopy is helping reinforce us wanting to buy Cheerios. This is an example of a 1967 Apple Jacks and a 1980s Apple Jacks. The 1967 Apple Jacks, the graphics are very Technicolor. They've really got that very um, classic 1970s kind of grainy, oversaturated color. And then they've got kind of what I'm they've got this Apple person with a smiley face. I mean, back then it could have been an excellent selling point. I feel like it hasn't aged well, because when I look at the Apple Jacks, specifically the 1967 Apple Jacks, the first thing I see is like a scary apple with a hat on, and then I go up to the logo, which I absolutely love. That logo is it it is it not only tells you what it is, but it is contained within an apple. So it naturally is giving Kellogg's Apple Jacks a sense of unity or harmony because of that containment of that apple that's bordering that logo and the title of the product. Okay. And then we've got, moving over to the 1980s Apple Jacks, we've got um, uh, a nicer color. Like we're getting better with our Technicolor, with our printing, and the imagery is becoming a little bit, in my opinion, better steered towards kids, because the Apple guide, that may have been good in 1967, but I just, if I were a kid, that wouldn't be my choice. I would rather go with the 1980s Apple Jacks, where there's a little sketch of two kiddos with a little heart, with a bowl of Apple Jacks, and the bowl is also feels like a sketch. So so I feel like that one was a little bit more successful for the intention of marketing towards younger audiences. I do, however, prefer the Apple Jacks logo on 1967, but if 1980s would have put 1967s on there, it may have competed too much for the composition, and it could have made it too busy. So I'm sure there was an intentional decision for why they wanted it to be Kellogg's Apple Jacks contained in just a rounded square or slight rectangle, because box art is always extremely intentional. This one is the 1980s Lucky Charms, and then we have the 2020 Lucky Charms. We've got a very two-dimensional flat Lucky Charms leprechaun, and he is reinforcing the cereal. The fact that he's on there makes you want to get this cereal even more. And then we have our 2020 leprechaun, and he is being contained by a rainbow, and he seems to be a little bit more three-dimensional feeling. So the 2020 Lucky Charms, they've just constantly enhanced and made the graphics better, utilizing new technologies. They're able to create this feeling of three-dimensional effects. Both are very successful. Both, we immediately see Lucky Charms, then we see the leprechaun, then we see the sugary marshmallowy cereal. And if you notice, the background is red, the bowl is yellow on the 2020, and the text is yellow. That's again reaffirming that phenomenon where the colors red and yellow make people hungry. Okay, so that gets me into okay, so we've talked about graphics on the box art. So how do we get the graphics onto the onto the box art? So if you were to open up a cereal box, or just a box in general, you'll notice that it is shaped like this. So this is just a standard template for box art, or for a cereal box, and you can find templates for many things online. You just type in cereal box template, chapstick template, and you'll be able to find a variety of templates. Usually if you're working with a client, they'll send you the specific template they want you to use. But for this, just understanding the idea of templates, just know that there's a bunch online if you ever want to just practice on your own. So this is what the template for a cereal box looks like. So a designer would use this template as the frame and design within the template framing. When a box art printing company would upload this file to print, you always want to keep the template on a separate layer when designing your box art and packaging. That way you can just get rid of it. It's also important to note that the company will give you specific information that they want or have to have on the box art, so you would incorporate that information in your design, like nutrition facts. Okay? So this is an example of a lip balm box. This is a couple lip balm boxes. We've got a example that is patterns. We've got what looks like citrus fruit as the pattern, and then we have another one where it is not a pattern; it's just a graphic of a mint leaf, and then the one to the right is seems kind of like an under the sea composition. So really, it can be anything. So I like the mint leaf as an example because the mint leaf is the largest design element. Then it's the name of the product. However, the name of the product has its own area on the box, which strengthens the element and makes it easier to notice. This is a great example of using graphic art to be the eye-catching element, which then guides your eye to the rest of the information on the box. Okay, let's go back and let's look at that mint leaf. So the first thing that I see is that mint leaf. It is the biggest, most contrasting thing, and humans have a tendency to see the biggest, most contrasting thing first. I also love how the green is slightly offset from the printing. It gives it an added an added element of interest. So I think that was a very excellent design choice, just to kind of give it a little bit, it's gives it a little bit of more uniqueness than if it were printed where the green and the black were perfectly in line with each other. So it's got a little bit of offset printing, which really catches my eye. And then I go right into, oh, it's organic, and oh, it's a simple and awesome organic lip balm. Great. Then I go right into Nuya. So the title of this product has been given its own space on the box. This is a really minimalistic design, but extremely effective. This is another example of box art for chapstick. It can be as simple as dots. It can be as simple as dots, or some varieties of circles and mandalas and clusters of dots. Pretty much anything goes as long as it does what it's supposed to do with catching the viewer's eye and gets them to know what the product is, and how it's going to supposedly make them feel. Like, I see these packagings, I see that it's a chapstick. I'm like, oh, well, I bet that this is a nice soothing lip balm, because the packaging, it's very calming. We're working with blues, and blues have a tendency to evoke the sense of calm. So the packaging is just reinforcing that when I use this chapstick, my my dry, rough lips are going to be soothed. They're going to calm down and not be as irritated. Patterns are also a good example of using graphic art to capture the attention of the consumer. When the designer uses patterns, they usually also box in the information to help distinguish it from the pattern, because there is a fine line between great graphics and then the title or the logo just kind of gets blended away in all of the busy graphics. So we can easily change that by just adding, let's see, adding a little box, as you can see in the citrus fruit chapstick box, and also in the underwater scene chapstick box. So this this packaging design is Burt's Bees. So the first thing I see is Burt's Bees. Then I see the watermelon, which is reinforcing that this particular product is watermelon flavored. And then there is graphics behind the watermelon and then the text. And what I love about this example is that the designers lowered the opacity and also used colors that were very similar to the overall background color. That way, it's being pushed backwards, and the more high contrast Burt's Bees, the watermelon, and all the text is getting pushed forward. But it's creating more variety with the composition. It's also emphasizing the foreground objects, and it's also supporting the narrative that Burt's Bees, is a watermelon lip balm, and mostly that it is made of beeswax. Okay, so all of these designs are extremely intentional, and people work work really, really hard on creating these eye-catching and extremely well composed and thought out compositions. Just because they want, their ultimate goal is to get you to buy Burt's Bees watermelon chapstick over the other competitor's watermelon chapstick. Okay? So Burt's Bees is the first element I see. Then I go right to the watermelon. Who sees the watermelon first? I think it kind of depends on the person. This is a good example of how designers must think of how every individual person will see designs differently depending on the person. The watermelon competes with Burt's Bees, but it is not distracting. In fact, it is very effective. Burt's Bees and the watermelon are having a visual conversation, letting the consumer know with ease that this product is watermelon flavor. This is an example of box art, or excuse me, a template for a chapstick. So if you were hired by a client to design chapstick, you would be given a file that looks similarly to this, and then you would design based on that template. Okay, and then you would take that AI file and you would send that to the box art company. So it would be the client hires you as the graphic designer, then you as the graphic designer work with the box art company to print it. Okay, this is what a chapstick template looks like, and you as the designer would have to design the graphics within the template lines. The solid lines being the outside of the box, how it is cut out, and the broken lines represent how it is folded. Okay, so all of the bold lines, all the solid bold lines, that is the how it's going to be cut out, and then all of the dotted lines are the fold lines. So for this piece of box art, you would have 1, 2, 3-ish, 4, 5 elements that you would want to think about designing. The flaps, that really is an element that you don't really need to design. You should consider the colors that you're going to use for it and that they harmonize well. But what the most important part for the designer is what the consumer is going to see the most. Okay, is what the consumer is going to see the most. I've seen some box art with patterns printed on the inside of the box art of like chapstick or something like that. And I think that is really, really clever. That's just an added extra that the product design team didn't have to do, but did, and it just enhances it even more. It enhances the experience of using the product. So I'm not saying disregard the inside of the box art or the flaps. If utilize them, if you can make them harmonize and emphasize the product. But for general purposes, it's usually the 1, 2, 3, 4. In this example's case, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4 sides of the box that the consumer would then see. And that is the lecture for packaging and box art. I hope that you have a greater understanding of visual hierarchy of packaging and box art and templates for how much of packaging and box art gets created commercially. So thank you so much for your time, you guys. I'll see you in the next video.